Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you. I am Dr. Paulina Van, the host of this show, The Poetry of Healing. And I am so happy you are here and stopped by. And today's show is all about interpersonal communication and how it can go sideways because hurt people hurt people. My guest today and I will be talking about and illustrating ways how we can get these relationships back on track, whether it is at home, at work, at school, at church, at a social gathering. And you may be thinking, well, why is any of this important to you? And one reason is that conflict in relationships causes stress. And we want to avoid the detrimental effects of stress on our body, mind, and emotions. Also, preparing and repairing, not preparing, well, we're preparing to repair these relationships, goes beyond the words we use. My guest today is a physician who is a relationship and communication expert. He has guided numerous individuals and groups to repair and heal relationships with themselves and also others. He is a wise and compassionate professional and colleague, and I am thrilled he will be joining us to begin this journey right after our centering exercise. So today, as we always begin with a centering exercise to help us focus and collect our energy for this time together, a time for you, and it's a gift for yourself. And so today I invite you to participate in a brief centering exercise to prepare us for listening. And I've done this before with you. And we're going to use it to connect to our inner self, to tap into the wisdom and compassion needed to heal relationships with others. So I invite you to get comfortable wherever you are. If you're sitting or standing or even still lying down and just being really cozy, okay? Just be. And I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable or lower your gaze. And I'd like you to take a moment to take a deep breath in and out. And so we're breathing through our nose, slowly in, and gently out through our mouth. Let's take a couple more breaths together. So take a breath in through your nose, have it just fill your whole body. And then breathe out slowly and softly. Breathe all the air out. And take the last breath on your own. Okay, and out. And now we will begin. And so I'm going to ask you to pay attention to the sounds that you hear outside of the room or the space that you are in right now. So some of you may be in a room, but I know that a number of viewers watch from and view from outside. You may be at a public cafe, internet cafe. So just listen to the sounds that are outside of your space. Okay, what do you hear? Next, pay attention to the sounds you hear right inside the room or closer to you, closer to the space you are in. Okay? So just, and keep slowly breathing and just taking in the sounds around you. And then finally, pay attention to what's going on inside of your body. Sometimes you can hear or feel your heart beating, feel your chest rising and falling as you breathe. So listen to your body. And how does it feel? Okay. And before we transition to the program, I'd like you to just take a deep breath in and out. And think about now and maybe after the show, what did you notice? What did you hear? Okay. Now take a deep breath in and out to notice you're here. Take another deep breath in and out. Again, to notice how your body feels. And lastly, take another breath in and out to enter this session. Okay? And you may keep your eyes closed or your gaze lowered, or you can open them again. So, for those viewers who have just joined us, I am Dr. Paulina Van, the author of Regala Healing. It's a book of 100 healing poems to promote self-care, self-understanding, and inner healing. And I host this show, The Poetry of Healing. And we've just completed a listening centering exercise to create a space and prepare our minds for today's show. And so, before we continue, we'd like to know where you are viewing from. So if you'd put it in the chat, we'd really be happy. And also like and share and tag this show so others can also embrace the information that we have today. Today's show is all about relationships and how to resolve conflict and promote healing and the connections you want in those relationships. You are just in time to meet our guest, and I'd like to welcome to the show my longtime colleague, mentor, friend, and thought partner. And I'm going to bring him in so you can see him while I continue to just give him accolades. And this is Marcus Adesima Penn. He's a physician, yoga, certified yoga teacher, restorative coach, and master trainer. And Dr. Penn, I just want to welcome you today. And how are you doing?
I am doing so much better after that wonderful healing space that you created.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful to be a part of your show and of connecting with your community.
Mm-hmm.
And let's continue. I'm excited.
Yeah, so yes, we're all going to jump right on in. See, that's how we're connected. We don't want any more formalities. We just want to jump in and talk about relationships. But before we do that, I'd like to invite you to share your background, personal and professional, as much as you feel comfortable sharing, so that our viewers can connect with you and the topic we're about to discuss, those relationships.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. First, I am an original San Franciscan. So I'm originally from San Francisco, California. I live in Oakland now. I did my schooling, my undergrad, I did over in Morehouse College, so enjoyed being in Atlanta. My medical education was at Howard University, College of Medicine in Washington, D.C., and then came on back to the Bay Area to continue in my medical education. But what's interesting is that my medical practice was relatively short-lived, as I recognized I wanted to connect more on upstream concepts and principles. And so what by that I mean connecting to what's back of disease, or what are the relationships that folks are having with things that may be causing conflict in their body, conflict in their mind, conflict in their environment. And so that journey led me to becoming a certified yoga teacher. That journey led me to receiving training to be a restorative practice facilitator, and again, master trainer as well. And really had me on my personal journey of exploring my internal conflicts and asking myself a lot of questions that we'll be going over later on in the show. And really just I'm all about healing. So again, no surprise for us to connect here and just to connect in this lifetime. And I'm all about creating a space and safe space for healing. So my life journey has been that, and being with you here is a part of that as well.
Well, it's, I've heard your story and your background before, but each time I pick up something a little uh, differently, and or distinctly. And this time, the focus on healing, and I didn't realize how much we have in common in terms of our passion for healing. And Dr. Penn and I have known each other for decades. Isn't that scary to say? We've known each other for decades, connected with a community group, the Ethnic Health Institute, and just have kind of followed each other. And here we converge, and I'm just so thrilled. So, you talked about conflict. So, in general, what causes conflict in interpersonal relationships?
You know, when I first think about that, our first relationship is really with ourselves. And so more times than not, the conflicts that outpicture uh, are because of inner conflicts that may not have been addressed.
Mhm.
And there are healthy ways and less healthy ways to do that. And so it tends to be the less healthy ways that have a conflict ripple effect, so to speak.
Mhm.
And so, how I like to define conflict, or in my restorative terminology, harm. So I kind of have conflict and harm pretty much synonymous. And I define it as any disruption to the integrity of a working relationship. Any act or behavior that disrupts the integrity of a working relationship. And
Mhm.
so when kind of just seeing it as just a break of that integrity, when there's conflict, the hope, at least in the work that I do, is to take away the sense of blame or shame or guilt, to really just move in the direction and be on a journey of accountability. And
Mhm.
so within conflict is always an opportunity to move towards accountability.
Okay, so thank you for the definition, because it's really important that us and the viewers have the same language and
Mhm.
understanding of what we're talking about. So let's break it down. Let's give us an example of a conflict, um, either with someone else, and a conflict within in ourselves. And
Mhm.
I know that you're currently doing a lot of work within an academic setting, but feel free to use an academic setting or a home setting. And it doesn't have to be your conflict, Dr. Panic.
No
It
worries.
could be one you heard about. But it would really be helpful to kind of make it tangible.
No worries.
Mhm.
And I'm all about vulnerability and transparency. So so it helps to share, and I'm
Mhm.
always happy to share, to use myself and my journey
Mhm.
as help for those who are here and listening.
Mhm.
So one conflict I think about is a place of harboring, kind of when harboring resentment. And so the example could be, or the example I'm sharing is, um, when there my my uh, uh, my family loves to do self-care. So that could be like
Mhm.
hikes, or or
Mhm.
walks, or uh, just being in a wonderful natural environment. And so uh, we definitely love to do that together. And so sometimes my wife may connect with a group of ladies that she walks with, and she does it quite regularly. And so the sometimes knowing that she's actively taking her self-care and caring for herself and building her community, sometimes, and this is sometimes I feel a little vulnerable to share in that sometimes I'm a little envious in that sense of the community that she has that I just may not be a part of. We obviously have our family,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've felt that inside, and for a period of time, I hadn't shared it with my wife. Had felt the feeling tone, and so, but when I did, I realized, or actually before I did, there was, knowing that she's doing something very helpful to take care of herself and be a part of community. Uh, that part of me that was a little envious was that piece of conflict that was not really in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I had shared with my wife I'd love to be a part of this group, and or at least to experience it. And so when I had done that brought the conflict back into integrity and alignment. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was a time where I got to join the group, and but beyond just the enjoyment of being with the group, I got to really just address the issue, and the issue that was within me, and just had a conversation. It is always any harboring of resentment or harboring of any sense of enviousness or jealousy tends to be something of an internal. And so for me, my internal conflict stayed a conflict until I spoke about it and spoke about it with my wife. So that brought us back into alignment.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. But Dr. Penn, I have to tell you, have to be transparent with you that when people come on this show, when guests come on this show, this vulnerability kind of surfaces. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate it. And I know our viewers appreciate the transparency and the vulnerability because we're all human. And just because we're in this healing work, doesn't mean that we don't have conflicts and we that we always resolve them
Mm-hmm.
in a timely manner quickly and the quote correct way. And as
Right.
when you were sharing, I was thinking I have a conflict
Mm-hmm.
um as well. My husband, he's semi retired, so there's some days that he's out playing golf or with his buddies, and I'm at work. And I'm thinking, why can't I want to be out there playing as well. So I get it. I absolutely get it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's kind of move on to describe, and you did a little bit in your introduction of yourself, but describe your motivation to develop restorative practices.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Kind of twofold. One's kind of the micro and one's kind of the macro. So the micro was uh, in my capacity at my health science university. I was invited to, in effect, to mediate an issue between faculty and students.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was brought in to address this issue, to bring some insight to this issue, it just kind of came into my mind. Let's explore restorative practices to address this conflict between some faculty and some students. And so that grew into a whole multi-phased curriculum that rolled out in the university, as you know. So that was the micro.
Mm-hmm.
The macro is that we are still in this COVID era, is what I kind of call it. I want to believe that we're on the back end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the front end, there definitely was a front end of it, because everything was so much more remote and virtual as we are now. Uh, Relationships became more virtual,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately also conflicts became more virtual. And so as I was again developing this curriculum, I also was recognizing that relationships have changed in their dynamics. Virtual, there's more email, there's more virtual. You don't get to feel as much of the vibration or the vibe or the energy of someone uh, when you're not in the physical room with them. So there are different cues and there's different ways, and sometimes there are different interpersonal conflicts that take place.
Mhm.
So I recognize that both of those, the micro and the macro, happening, and using these restorative tools I'll be sharing today. It seemed to work, and also the fact that we were doing much more virtual trainings that
Mhm.
actually allowed these tools to reach more individuals. And
Mhm.
so the macro of this pandemic era actually helped the dissemination of a lot of these tools that I'll be sharing.
Mhm. Well, you bring up a good point.
Hmm.
Us being without preparation, going virtual and being socially isolated, all those things at the same time, really, I, I don't want to use the word force, but I don't have another word now, but forced us to be able to relate in a different way. But on that journey of learning how to relate differently, we made mistakes and we missed those energetic cues because we all carry energy, and we missed or misinterpreted
Hmm.
those energetic tools, which led to conflict. So we've talked about you developing these tools and these practices, and there are 4 restorative practices. And if we had 4 hours, we could talk about them all. But I really like you. This spiral of conflict or reconciliation
Hmm.
is very popular among the individuals and groups that you coach and you guide in your restorative practice. So, Dr. Penn, I'm going to put up your
Okay.
uh, slide here, and I'm going to ask you just to walk us through it, because after that, this is where we're going to apply some of your tools. And I just want to reset here and say that if you're just joining us, you've you've dropped into a conversation about conflicts in relationships and how we can restore them. And so what we're about to do, our special guest is Dr. Penn, and he's going to walk us through one of his restorative practices, and it's the spiral of conflict or reconciliation. So let me bring the slide up on the screen.
Hmm.
And is that good for you? Can you see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Absolutely. So thank you. So so we see there are a lot of words here. I don't want folks to be distracted by so much of the words here. The key here is that looking at the top, these are all reflections of types of conflict or outpicturings of conflict. And at the bottom are um, approaches to help mitigate the conflict. And if I were presenting this as a PowerPoint, I would have the words kind of reveal themselves one at a time, but no worries. So when we think about, again, as I shared before, a harm or a conflict is a act or behavior that disrupts the integrity of a functional relationship. And so when that harm or conflict happens, there are usually two different ways in which things can spiral. You can either spiral away from the conflict or the harm that's happened, so separation, or you can spiral towards or connect more with it. So that you see that those are the two ends, so the top and the bottom, separation or connecting. So those are the two options. And so when we think of if of the conflict, if there is a part of us, let's make this us. If there's a part of us that may be separating from the issue, from the conflict, that's also an invitation for connecting more. It's an invitation for connecting with whom, if it's one individual, to connect more. It's an invitation to connect more with them, to find more creative ways to connect, and also perhaps to invite others to connect more to the issue. So connecting is something that can help to mitigate one separating from the issue. And so, if that doesn't happen, sometimes things can continue to spiral towards the conflict, and there can be fear of the unknown, and that can be fear of one's response or reaction, if wanting to bring up the issue, or one not sure what one's response is when wanting to acknowledge that a harm has happened. And so, what helps to mitigate that is to just simply respect each other, to respect that we are all on our own life journeys, our own evolution journeys as human beings. Um, and so, when we just respect each other, respect each other's journey, that can help to mitigate some of the fear of the unknown. Not that it may take away what is unknown, but it may take the fear of that unknown away when we just respect each other and respect each other's journey. If things are continuing to spiral towards conflict, many times bias can show up. It can show up as implicit bias or explicit bias, so maybe very out there explicit, or implicit where it's kind of in the background. And many times, again, these conflicts that do show up or outpicture outside of us, many times are reflective of conflicts, again, that have not been addressed inside of us. So again, what's the invitation? What can help to mitigate that? Honoring differing viewpoints at the bottom. And so I highlight the honoring of differing viewpoints to mean not necessarily agreeing with different viewpoints. We're all individuals. We all have different perspectives and opinions, and even ways to get to a solution or to address a conflict. So the honoring is simply knowing that there can be two perspectives to approach a conflict or to resolve a conflict. And so when the invitation here for, again, speaking as if these are two individuals or at least two entities, to just acknowledge that there can be in the same space two different perspectives or viewpoints of the conflict, and allowing space for that. That's a good step point, not the end point, but definitely a good stepping point in addressing conflict. And then also, again, if things are continuing to move towards conflict or different stages of it, discrimination, and this it's always unfortunate whenever reflections of discrimination show up. Again, within our definitely within our relationships, within our country, within certain marginalized groups, discrimination we know definitely does happen, and it hurts my heart. A lot of healing needs to happen around a lot of discrimination within this country and the world. So when we see that as a part of the conflict, again, that's an invitation for just deeper understanding. And again, this many times these aspects of discrimination can show up when there's a lack of understanding. So it's an invitation for more understanding. Understanding, again, one's background, understanding how an environment may contribute to conflict. So expanding that understanding can help mitigate discrimination. And then again, if these continue to spiral towards conflict, aggression, and there many times there are microaggressions that show up, and microaggressions are those little things that may not be intentional, may be unintentional, yet still are hurts, are harms, and can still bring conflict and separation and distance from someone and disrupt the integrity of a functional relationship. So again, that invitation is for affirmative advocacy. Again, if there are these micro aggressions that happen, many times, well, let me personalize. Many times, if I'm experiencing a microaggression, I'm in this work too, I may not always address it in real time. I'll feel it. I'll know it's happened. I'll know I have experienced a break in the integrity of a functional relationship. But I realize that when those happen, it's an opportunity for affirmative advocacy. So say there's example of many times just when someone may say the word little before something that I've done or produced, and like, oh, that was a nice little presentation that you did. Just
Mhm.
saying that word little is actually a microaggression. And so that opportunity and the invitation for me to affirmatively advocate for myself is to just say that, you may not, to this individual who may have said this, you may not realize that just when you said little, that actually kind of diminished this great work that I did, this presentation. So I invite you to actually not use that word, or to hopefully be more aware of that. So that's an example of affirmative advocacy. And so again, all these again lead towards conflict or move you towards the direction of reconciliation. And the invitation is, where are you leaning in the beginning of when the conflict happens? Separating from it or wanting to connect to it. And this spiral can help you navigate that journey.
Well, thank you. I'm going to take down this.
Mhm.
Um, that was absolutely excellent. And what came to mind, and this is a poetry of healing. And of course, I have a poem that kind of fits that. So I thought I would, it came to mind that I might read it right now. And this poem came to me after a dust up with my husband. And it's so funny because he heard me mention it the last show I did. And he said, "Well, what was the dust up?" I said, "I don't remember." He says, "I don't remember either." But this is the way that I reconciled um, the dust up. And then I read it to him.
All right.
And it's titled Feeling. And it's in my book, Regala Healing. And it's on page 77 in the physical book. And it's a little earlier in the ebook. And it goes, "I'm feeling unsteady. I'm feeling not ready. I'm feeling a backward fall. I'm feeling I must call. I'm feeling a need to be heard. I'm feeling lost in the herd. I'm feeling I can arise. I'm feeling it will not be a surprise. I'm feeling a need to exit this space. I'm feeling a draw to a healing place." And so we can choose to take the spiral down into conflict, or we can choose to take the spiral to healing. Or yes, yes, absolutely. For those of you who have just joined us, I am Dr. Paulina Van with my special guest, Dr. Penn, and we're talking about conflicts in relationships. And this show is typically a half an hour. And as you can see, we have passed a half an hour point. Yet I just like us to take a little time. We won't be able to go through the entire exercise, but it's important that you take away from this some tools. And one of them, there's a couple things we'll do before we end. And one of them is to go over the restorative questions that Dr. Penn has developed to help with creating a restorative healing environment when a harm or conflict happens in a relationship. So I'm just going to ask Dr. Penn to state them, and then if you could, as you know, we finish the video, and then if you can roll it back, rewind it, or watch it again, and just when you come to the questions, just pause the video and answer them for yourself. So, Dr. Penn, if you would share with us the 3 restorative questions that are also wonderful tools to help us create this healing environment.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And as a reminder, again, the initial and most important relationship we have is with ourselves. And so these restorative questions are always supportive when we can ask ourselves them first, and then if we are in conflict with another, to engage in the questions with another as well. And so the first one is simply asking, what is happening? What is happening inside what is happening within me and outside of me? Just what is happening? So that's the first question. What's happening? And then the second question is, what is the impact of what's happening? What's the impact, again, within me? What's the impact of what's happening on others? So that looking within and looking without. And then the third question, which is, as I like to say, is the most restorative question, is what can I do now to make things better? And the key is now. The harm has happened. The conflict has happened. It may still be happening. But what can I do now to make things better for myself, make things better for the relationship, for the communication? So again, there's a lot that one can go into the direction of that last question. So again, just as recap, what's happening, what's the impact, and what can I do now to make things better? Those are the three key restorative questions that can help you navigate through any conflict inside of you or outside of you.
Well, Dr. Penn, we really are connected because you began your restorative questions by saying we must begin with ourselves and looking within. So I'm going to ask you to give us one or two reasons why meditation helps with this restorative work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation and grounding and centering exercises really help to fortify and solidify our relationship with ourselves. And that within that self is our body, relationship with our body, with our mind, and with everything in between. Some can say spirit, some can say chi, some can say my inner vibration. But again, that which is within that may not be seen is also that relationship that can be strengthened.
Mm-hmm.
And when our relationship within is strong, then more times than not, our relationships outside of ourselves can be strengthened as well. And that is definitely a huge part of the journey that I'm on. And as a matter of fact, too, as I think it's something I'd like to share about my middle name, which is Adashima. It's actually my ancestral name. And someone who is connected to our African ancestors said there's a name for you, and they gave me that name, Adashima. And what it means, it actually is from the Yoruba tribe in West Africa, Ghana and Nigeria. And what it means is, Adashima means receiving my crown, listening to my deep inner voice. So I thought that was just apropos to share that is how I'm living, listening to the voice, and that healing within allows there to be more healing without.
That is the most appropriate name for you, Adashima.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Beautiful. Yes. And so as Dr. Penn gave me the entree to meditation, and as those of you who've been with me along the way know that meditation is a tool I use for every topic that we discuss. And when we're talking about restoring relationships and healing, it's important that, yes, we soothe ourselves before we attempt to engage with another person, and make ourselves vulnerable. And what it takes is going inside of ourselves, but also opening our heart and coming from that heart space. And so Meditation is a way to soothe yourself because it begins with you. And so I'm going to invite you as we near closing this session. I invite you to participate in a brief meditation. It's less than 2 minutes, so stick with us. And it's to help you enrich your communication. And you may be aware that we have 7 energy centers that are situated down the center of our bodies, and these are called chakras. And when they are open, energy can flow freely through them and keep our body and mind in balance. Each chakra has a purpose. And so the throat chakra, too many consonants here, but the throat chakra is associated with communication. Okay. And so when this chakra is open and balanced, it's easier to express ourselves clearly and to say what we want and need. But when it's out of balance, we may pretend everything is fine, which eats up your inside. And then, or we can respond in a very reactive, unhealthy way. Okay. So I'm going to invite you, let's give it a try. Okay. Again, it's less than 2 minutes. Again, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes or lower your gaze and to do that deep breathing as we did before. So slowly in through your nose and then gently out through your mouth. Continue to breathe a couple more deep breaths like that, allowing ourselves to be soothed by the rhythm of our breath. Okay, so as you inhale, I want you to imagine your breath moving through all parts of your body. Okay, so inhale, and you just watch the air start at the tip of your head and all the way down your body to your feet. And exhale. Okay. And now bring your awareness to your throat. You may want to touch it, but just bring your awareness to your throat and see how it feels. Does it feel dry? Does it feel tight? Does it feel congested, clogged? Each chakra has a color, and the color of the throat chakra is blue, a beautiful blue. So I'd like you to imagine as you inhale, imagine you're inhaling a blue light moving into your throat. And then as you exhale, you're bringing any feelings of discomfort out. Okay. So inhale that blue light into your throat and watch it just illuminate your throat. And then exhale any feelings of discomfort, whatever it might be. Let's do it one more time. Inhale that blue light and let it bathe your throat and illuminate, light up your throat. And then you're going to exhale anything that's not comfortable. Okay. So as we come to a close, and you can leave your eyes closed or open them, the focus of this session was getting relationships back on track after someone mistreats you or you experience a conflict with another person. And we explored various communication techniques and the use of meditation to diffuse the conflict, reduce stress, and to heal these relationships. And so I ask you that as we close, if you would please join me every first and third Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific time right here on blackdoctor.org. I ask you to like and share and tag this program so other people can benefit from it. If you have not had the opportunity to, please drop in the chat where you're viewing from. We love to hear that. Leave comments. I do read and will respond to your questions and comments, and I'm going to invite Dr. Penn to do the same for this show. And visit my site at regalahealing.com to learn more about my healing and self-care work and resources. I'll put a QR code up so you can just scan it and easily get there. And I want to thank you for joining us today, and especially my guest, my friend, my thought partner, Dr. Penn. And as always, I wish you love and light until I see you again. And here I'm going to put up the QR code for you. Just for a few seconds, give you time to scan it.